Greetings everyone, and welcome to an episode of Reading Too Much Into. This episode, I'll discuss the first season of Gargoyles, the characters, themes, symbolism, and overall review. To start off, if you haven't watched the series yet, I highly encourage it, because it will be well worth it, as it will also make it easier to follow this review, or even if you're someone who wishes to avoid spoilers until having seen the series. With that said, let's begin. Gargoyles in many ways was ahead of its time, beginning with a multi-part movie, as many modern and contemporary animated shows have done in the last 20 plus years or so, or maybe longer. As it didn't have any original source material to draw from, it was something of a gamble for Disney at the time, especially as it was the polar opposite of its usually colorful and more light-hearted anthropomorphic animal cartoons of the 1990s. The series begins with the 5-part story arc, Awakening, and the first season only has 13 episodes, making the season feel much shorter than it really is, because the first arc was more of a movie, divided into 5 half-hour parts. Here, the entire premise of the series is established, as it first opens to a nighttime scene of Manhattan, where explosions are hidden by low-hanging clouds over a massive skyscraper, drawing a curious crowd of onlookers on the streets below. A key character makes her early appearance and soon notices the strange scratches on a piece of rubble, asking quietly, what could be strong enough to leave claw marks in solid stone? To then transition to the title of Gargoyles, as though in answer, which then reveals a battle scene in 994 medieval Scotland, exactly 1,000 years before 1994 Manhattan. Relations between humans and gargoyles is rocky at best, pun more or less intended, but contemptible and complicated at worst, unfortunately. A misunderstanding occurs that destroys many gargoyles, leaving few survivors who get cursed into a stone sleep for 1,000 years, until the castle, quote-unquote, rises above the clouds. The castle is purchased by a powerful multi-billionaire and moved to the highest building in Manhattan, where the gargoyles awaken to the modern world. They try to find their place in it while making new friends and fighting new and old enemies, as well as crime and magical forces. The plot of the first episodes was a movie called Gargoyles: The Heroes Awaken, which I loved so much as a kid. I remember borrowing the tape from a friend for weeks at a time and would watch over and over again, wishing I had my own copy. It's said the movie first premiered at a movie theater in Pleasure Island at Disney World in early 1994, and then became a straight-to-video movie later in the year, before premiering in syndication the next year. While there are a few small differences between the movie and TV episodic version, they're small, and are basically the origin story for our main cast of characters, which consists of the common 5-man band trope, with an animal or kid sidekick, along with common recurring characters as friends or antagonists. The main character of the series is the leader of the gargoyles, Goliath, who is the embodiment of the hero archetype as well as the stoic leader and powerhouse rolled into one, but is much more complex and can even be a deep-thinking philosopher, loyal friend, or even a wrathful force of nature, which is an awesome sight to behold. Voiced by the ever-talented Keith David, with such a thunderous baritone, one of my favorite moments of Goliath was in one of the first episodes when he roared about being denied his revenge, which always gave me chills and is an awesome sight to behold. Those rippling muscles, that deep voice, his intelligent but formidable warrior nature. Woo! All right, he's one of my favorite characters ever. I hope to do a much longer analysis of him someday. Now, the clan he leads consists of young warriors in training and occasionally referred to as the Trio, Brooklyn, Broadway, and Lexington, and their mentor, Hudson, occasionally even called the Old Soldier. Unlike Goliath, who is named after a villain from biblical myth, the rest of the clan named themselves after parts of modern Manhattan to fit in more. It was revealed in the opening episodes it wasn't Gargoyle custom to even have names, as Hudson questioned the rather odd human practice to give things names, just to make them seem more real or give them limits. Gargoyles would refer to each other as friend, brother, sister, mentor, or even leader. But it's pointed out that things just need names. So they picked names for themselves to symbolize their new lives in the 20th century. As the season progresses, each character got an episode centered on them as part of their own unique story arcs, even showing that they were to become even more than just embodiments of cliched character tropes overused in the 1980s and 90s. The first to have his own episode was Lexington in The Thrill of the Hunt. And he may be labeled as the tech whiz smart geek of the clan, as he loves computers, video games, fixing things, and even seeing how technology works. But he can still be a bit naive about things, like what's real and what's not real from television, like when he tries to befriend the Pack from his favorite TV show. While he wants to make new friends and see good in everyone, reminding even Goliath of the need for kindred spirits, so as not to be alone, his story arc would involve proving himself as an important contributor to the clan, while also facing trust issues when it comes to certain people, given the Pack's betrayal, which makes him a bit of a paranoid at times. But he will always put the needs of his clan before his own, and still tries to keep faith that there are still heroes left in the world. Next is Brooklyn in Temptation. He may be labeled as the Lancer type of the clan. As while he admires and respects Goliath, he's more of the hot-headed, brash, thrill-seeking cool guy who likes to drop witty one-liners and was the quickest to pick up on 90s slang, being the first to express the word cool after receiving orders from Goliath about a mission. All these traits would make him something of a fan favorite of the show, though he's only my third or fourth favorite of my top 5. He too would learn about trust and different points of view after a betrayal from someone he thought he knew and could trust. Showing much of his story arc is about developing emotional and mental maturity, and its importance for leadership, as he was always the unofficial leader of the trio, and later becomes second in command. Finally, last but not least of the trio is Broadway in Deadly Force. And he may be labeled as the chubby, somewhat dim-witted comedic relief who mostly cared about food, movies, and fun, but also broke this trope as he learned a hard lesson from his own naivete about the dangers of guns. His first season episode was really controversial for a long time, and was banned on and off from airing for years, despite being about the importance of gun awareness and safety. But when it did air, scenes of where blood were present were cut. I have a feeling he would have a lot to say about today's gun issues, but more on that later. Much of his story arc shows him grow from naivety and indifference to things such as reading, and his own intelligence and potential as a person, to loving reading and even detective work, thanks to the clan's first human friend. Then there's Hudson in Long Way Till Morning. This episode came a bit late in the season, but is no less essential, He may be labeled as the mentor of the clan, as he's the oldest member, and it was revealed that he was the clan's previous leader before Goliath, who was his second in command. Despite his advanced age, he's still a capable warrior and is only semi-retired, though he really enjoys the 20th century invention of television, maybe more so than the trio. Much of his story arc shows while he thinks he's too old to learn anything, that is completely untrue, and it's never too late to learn something new, while still drawing on experience and wisdom to adapt to new situations, whenever and whatever life throws at you. This is what makes him my third favorite character, as he occasionally reminded me even of my own grandpa. But they aren't all the only members of the clan, and unfortunately the only one not to get an episode about him in the first season was the gargoyle dog Bronx, which I really wish they did, as he's so loyal and sweet like a real doggy. But unfortunately, he mostly spent time sleeping and keeping a chair-ridden Hudson company, so sorry, Bronx. To round out the cast of characters, let's not forget about the villains, introduced in the first season. The opening episodes established the first two main villains of the show, Demona and David Xanatos, both who show that they aren't your typical Saturday morning cartoon villains, and are more than they seem. Demona is first introduced as Goliath's love, his wife in a sense, and second in command. Seemingly another heroic gargoyle, yet as the story progresses, she reveals her darker side, and deep, hateful misanthropy to the point of genocide. She may seem like a typical bad guy with destructive schemes that need to be stopped, twisting truths and manipulating those around her to get what she wants. But these only hint at a more complex character who is broken on the inside and proves to be her own worst enemy. David Xanatos, on the other hand, is the classic brains foil to Goliath and the clan's usual brawn. Even shows a reversal of hero and villain roles with his first name and symbolism alone. He seems to fill the role of, please pardon my language here, magnificent bastard. Or a more PG title I heard about, the charismaniac to a T. A manipulative strategist, smooth and suave, charismatic, and cool-headed, even when his plans go sideways. When it comes to, like, nothing goes as planned, he finds a silver lining in his defeat, or it was all theatrics to distract from his real goals. Unlike a lot of other animated villains, he had no interest in destroying the heroes, or taking over the world. For him, it was always about the thrill of the game and acquisitions. Yet, he showed he was willing to learn and better himself from his mistakes, even though he'd rather not admit it, even to himself. While Xanatos and Demona are the two main recurring villains, a few more were introduced in the first season that made recurring appearances in later episodes. One of my favorite secondary antagonists was Macbeth, who first shows the series' connection and inspiration from Shakespearean characters as possibly real figures. He too was more than he appeared, not really wanting to destroy the clan, but use them to get at Demona, as he hints at a connection to her in his first appearance, claiming to have even named her. A group of fun, if occasionally corny villains, was the Pack, a group of mercenaries posing as actors in an over-the-top martial arts Power Rangers style kind of TV show that Lexington mistakes for being real. Named after wild dogs of sorts, the group included from left to right Wolf, Dingo, Fox, and the Psycho Twins, Jackal and Hyena. Lexington tried to befriend them early in the season, believing them to be real, but when they entrapped him and Goliath in a game of cat and mouse, the illusion was shattered and led to Lexington's trust issues, despite him being right about finding friends and allies in the 20th century and not having to hide forever. Goliath reminds him of this, and Lexington takes solace and reassurance that there are still heroes left in the world. Finally, a rather forgettable villain, but still fun, made an appearance in the first season is wannabe Godfather type Tony Dracon. Not much can be said about him except he is what he does. He seems to have an antagonistic, if one-way, flirtatious rivalry with Elisa Maza, and is the archetypical sly, slimy, and egotistical mob boss who loves nothing more than making money, although he is willing to get his hands dirty and does lead on occasion from the front lines. All of them represent a very different time and world. From what the clan knew 1,000 years ago. From a single castle on the rocky coasts of Scotland to a city, an ocean, and new world away. One world had fallen, and another had risen in its place. Yet, both have a few things in common. A castle, a place of power, grandeur, and protection, yet can also be a prison or a place to keep heavily guarded secrets and treasures. A city, also a place of wealth, power, protection, and knowledge to be sought. Yet also of contradictions, of law and crime, blending cultures and segregation, order and chaos. Even concepts of light and dark. But while one world ended and another began, it also brought with it renewal and a new beginning for the clan, especially their first human friend, Elisa Maza, a street tough but idealistic police detective that shows the good of the new world to the clan, especially Goliath, as she offers him many things he thought he had lost before, such as friendship, kindness, hope, even a new home and purpose, all of which, even in the first few episodes, may have hinted at something more. The beginning of a classic love triangle? It does seem to be a bit more complicated than that, as Goliath and Elisa do become fast friends at the beginning of the series, and Demona does have lingering feelings for Goliath, as she was his mate and second in command. But any love she has for him is eclipsed by her hateful and misanthropic genocidal agenda. For me, I embarrassedly admit that for a while I did hope Goliath and Demona would get back together, as I just thought they looked adorable together. But gradually I could see Goliath and Elisa together more, as it was a growing and healthier and stronger relationship. And on occasion they even reminded me a bit of Lois and Clark at times, as they showed healthy and positive relationship goals. But then things seemed to shatter again when things seemed to come full circle. Stunningly, while the first episode is only 13 episodes long, but feels shorter due to the 5-part episodic movie, worlds collide and seem to come together when a new character from the old world appears, but he too has changed. Just as the beginning was called Awakening, the final episode of the first season was called Reawakening, for the first appearance of the Frankenstein-esque character Coldstone. Created by Demona and Xanatos, By combining sorcery and science respectively, Coldstone was once one of Goliath and Mona's rookery brothers from the old Wyvern clan. One shown to partially agree with Damona's negative view of humanity in general, but is reminded of a gargoyle's true purpose to protect. He too struggles with his place in this new world, going from between friend and enemy, as he faces literal inner demons. Amazingly, he is also voiced by the booming baritone of Michael Dorn, who along with Marina Sirtis and Jonathan Frakes shows a surprisingly growing number of Star Trek actors voicing characters on the show. Having grown up watching Star Trek The Next Generation, my ears can easily recognize the cast voices on instinct, and it just makes me love Gargoyles all the more. Was it some kind of happy coincidence, or just something they happily did on the side? I honestly don't know. I'm just happy that they did, and it still made the show all the more epic. Well, there is just so much more to discuss, such as deeper character analysis, story arcs, and the possible deeper symbolism within the show. But for now, I just wanted to talk a bit about the first season. Often when new shows first come out, their first season can be a hit or miss, winning over an audience or struggling to find one. Yet, they take a chance and try to find their footing, and even try to find out what they can be or want to be. Gargoyles may have been one of those rare exceptions, as it knew exactly what it wanted to be, despite struggles behind the scenes while in production. It was an intelligently written epic, modern fantasy drama that didn't shy away from tackling serious issues, still relevant even today, while telling compelling stories with well-rounded and relatable characters. While not every episode was a masterpiece, it never lost sight of what it was. And maybe if circumstances were different, or better business decisions had been made, back when it was first airing, maybe it would have lasted for far more seasons, possibly even rivaling many animated shows today. Well, I hope to expand on some things discussed here, so I hope you enjoyed and can continue the conversation by commenting. And please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified. Find my work on fanfiction.net, DeviantArt, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram, or even support me on Patreon. Until next time, thank you for watching, and stay inspired!